Welcome to Leadership Matters with Superintendent Johnson, where we have in studio with us a fabulous guest, and I'm super excited about having this guest with me. And believe it or not, he is, and he probably doesn't even remember this, he is the first person outside of FAMU that I met when he was the high school principal at high school coach, and thank you, at Florida High. He was brought over to meet me and embrace my family, and we kind of ended up at a barbecue together and a friendship that has continued. We're super excited to have FAMU's head basketball coach. I don't know if I should say that first, or Heisman, but more than that, a man of God here with us in today's show, Mr. Charlie Ward. So thank you for being here with us. And I'm sure our students and our community will be excited to hear from you, Coach Ward.
Well, I'm excited to be here, and thanks for the opportunity, for sure.
So what I just have is some questions, and the tag for my show is Leadership Matters. I think it matters from the stance of where you've been as an athlete, what you've done as a coach, what you've done, I think, for me, most importantly, as a mentor to the community. And so I want to start off a little bit with your mentorship. I think that's some of your hopes with your new project that you have going on. And so could you share a little bit about that project with our viewing audience so they could understand what you're doing with your ranch?
Well, your topic and the reason why you do it, leadership does matter, because we're all being led by somebody and so in some
absolutely.
direction. And so it's important to make sure that, the leadership that you're under is leading you in the same direction that you want to go, as far as what you're trying to do. And so I was just grateful. My wife and I, Tanja, we've been married for almost 30 years.
Right.
Well, not almost. We've been married for 30 years and almost 31 years in August. And so we've been doing quite a bit of ministry together.
Right.
Before we got married, and even after we got married, doing basketball camps and Christian events during the NBA All-Star Weekend, and also some other things in the community. And when we decided to make Tallahassee our home, God gave us this vision for the Champions Ranch. And it's pretty much a community one-stop shop for programs and services, along working with other partners in the community to help provide those services, so that we can have a one-stop shop. Of course, we're sports related in a sense. That's kind of the draw. But we will have like a counseling center, physical therapy, wellness partners. So we'll have a gamut of programs and resources, services to be there for the entire community. So I kind of equate it to like a college that has all the programs and resources and sports for their students, where we're looking to have that same type of setup for the community.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And I'll say this on the podcast, however I could help, definitely, because I believe in that. I did have one question, and I've wondered uh, Heather and I have been to a couple of your events and really are impressed with what is going on. Champion Ranch, Champion, is there a specific reason that you titled it Champion, the Champions Ranch? Is that correct?
Yes. So we've been around, and we have quite a few mentors, and some of them on the ranch, and we kind of like the thought process of the ranch feel, the look, and those types of things.
So I should have worn my overalls today.
You could have, or a cowboy hat, or some boots.
Oh, got them all.
All those things
got them all. I'm from Arkansas.
Valuable for being at the ranch, and the champions part, is just part of who we want to be, and who we are. And Champions for Christ is like the center for the entire project in our lives as well. And so we want to cultivate lifelong champions.
So to have some faith-based
Well, we are
elements to it?
faith-based.
Okay,
We are
great.
faith-based. And Tanja put it this way: our family foundation, which is we service youth character development through sports education, wellness, and arts,
Nice.
and also support disaster relief. And if our foundation had a baby, it would be the Champions Ranch. And so
Nice.
it's the vehicle for our mission to be able to continue to do the work that God has called us to do. And we have people who are like-minded, some nonprofit, some for-profit, but we're all like-minded in helping to build young people and also work with families or adults to be able to help build stronger families. And so at the end of the day, we all want to be champions.
Yes.
And we can make it happen at the Champions Ranch.
You know what I appreciate most about you, even Charlie, when I met you, is the human that you are. I remember when I first met you, and I was talking to people back home at Arkansas. You know, talking in general, they like, have you met people? And I told them, yeah, I met Charlie Ward, and they were like, Charlie, you know, and we'll talk about the sports and all that here in just a minute. And I said, yeah, but they were like, well, you know, what are you talking about? I said, we never talked about your athletic accolades. You invited my family and I to church when we first moved here. And I've always admired that component of you because my wife and I feel very sanely we're built on similar foundation. Many people here don't know that I'm an ordained elder, and so that
What do you do now?
Well, cut. No, I'm just joking. But no, because I stand on it. Because people always wonder the special, like how do you do it? And I think that would be the same for you is faith. But I want to ask with the role. So that's a huge project, but you also have the huge project of leading the men's basketball team here at FAMU. Do you see a crossover into those, or that's got to be really busy for you and for Tanja, and I can say that I know her, Miss Ward, but it's got to be a really busy life. So talk to us as young people. Think about it like working hard but balancing, because you have your Champions Ranch and you have also the job of head basketball coach here at FAMU, and then after being married, your second biggest job is your father. So how are you managing all of those pieces?
Well, it's definitely a healthy balance,
Okay.
for sure, and balance is for everyone. If you don't have balance, then you're going to, of course, be falling on one side or the other. But it's important to have a healthy balance and have understanding as well. And
Okay.
everything that we do in life, I always say this, everything we do in life is preparing us for something.
Okay.
And so sometimes we don't understand what we're going through is preparing us for something else. And so my time in the NBA has prepared us for where I am today. Because when I was in the NBA, I had to have a healthy balance in order for us to make it for 30 years.
Right.
And my wife Tanja had to have an understanding of her role during that time for us to be able to make it 30 years. And
Wow.
so it's important
Okay.
that you understand where we are today. We all have jobs. Tanja's leading the charge for the Champions Ranch. She's like the CEO of the project. And I do my part. Whenever
So-
I need to get to a meeting, I go to a meeting. I kind of show up and
When a friend calls you and say, come to a
Yes.
podcast, you look and say, I'll be there.
yes, we work to
Okay.
try to make it happen. So
Well, I'm
it's-
grateful that. What about lessons? What lessons? And I'm thinking back to, now I'm going to shift a little bit for the first time in many of our conversations and talk to Charlie Ward, the Heisman Trophy, not candidate, but winner. Charlie Ward, the phenomenal NBA player. You played only on one team, the Knicks, didn't you? For your,
No, I played majority of my time there.
with the Knicks,
nine and a
right.
half years with the Knicks.
and that's incredible. So what lessons did you learn from the young Charlie that you utilize now with the more mature. We both got little grays in our beards now. What lessons then did you learn that helps Charlie function now?
Well, the importance of playing your role. I always talk about when you find your role, when you've been given a role, go and excel, in that role. A lot of times when we've been given a role or we're a part of a team, most times, if we're not mature enough, we want to do somebody else's job. And so we got to get out of our lane, and we're not able to function at a high level to be able to help the team be successful. And so I've had plenty of opportunities to learn that part, immature and mature, to understand that playing your role is, one, you got to identify and find your role. And once you identify and find your role, you got to excel at that role, and know that there may be other opportunities to do the things that you may desire to do if that's not the role that you want to play. Because, like my freshman year in college, I was recruited to play quarterback. However, my freshman year, I was asked to compete for the punting job, and I ended up winning the punting job. Now, that wasn't what I wanted to do, or the reason why I was brought to Florida State. And however, yes, I ended up winning the punting job. So I ended up having to, in my immature thinking, I was losing a year of eligibility to do something that I didn't want to do.
Right.
But lo and behold, it serviced the need for the team. And the thing that I learned the most was I provided an opportunity for me to learn what it looked like to be a good teammate.
So Charlie, let me ask you, as I think, hopefully this is an original question, but going from what you just described, they recruited you to be a quarterback and you end up being a punter, but then it's amazing how things can happen and God can make. You then became Charlie Ward, the starting quarterback, and not only the starting quarterback, a Heisman candidate, and also projection to win the national championship. Did you ever just want to pop your collar? I know, Charlie, you cool and laid back, but did you inwardly ever want to pop your collar and say, even if it's to yourself, how you like me now? Look at what I've done. If to do that is incredible, not only to stay in that mind frame, but to move into becoming a Heisman candidate. That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, all those things are great, when it happens, and it does create long-lasting memories. But one of the things that I found out that life continues to move on. and so when those things do happen, accolades happen, life still moves on. And so if you're living in the past, you're going to not be able to move forward to be the best person that you can be.
Yeah, and what I also would think, the spotlight was on you. And so were there times in that spotlight and I'm coming back to leadership where I try to ground everything, you are a leader for Florida State. Were there lessons that even as a young man, because 22, 23 years old, you got one of the biggest spotlights in sports on you as a Heisman candidate and leading a team towards a national championship. Leadership, what leadership aspects did you have to gravitate to the quickest?
Well, failure is one, because you learn from it, or you don't.
Right.
And for me, I didn't have the success going through the process, but I had to learn how to overcome failure. I threw a bunch of interceptions. The first time I started playing quarterback, and it was a tough time during that time.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I went on YouTube and I tried to watch and learn a little bit before this. You threw a few picks, but
yeah. So it was, just that's part of the humbling process. When you talk about lessons that you learn, and why you don't pop your collar, because humility is right around the corner.
It is.
And so we just have to remain in the middle road, as I keep saying. You have to remain in the middle of the road, knowing that there's going to be some positives, some negatives, but you have to continue to find out how you can grow from those experiences, both positive and negative. And so those are just lessons that we all should learn, because you're going to have some success and you're going to have some failures, but how do you respond to both is how you continue to progress.
So you win the Heisman. Many folks, I never thought I'd be in Tallahassee, and I was in that anger of, this brother should be, going into the NFL, and you were confident enough about your skills as a basketball player. Lessons learning from not going into the NFL, into the NBA. I know it had to have some of your faith tied to it, but what was that like for you as a leader?
Well, I winning a Heisman and then continue to play basketball, which there was a purpose behind it. I was the senior leader on my basketball team at Florida State, and I wanted to also keep my option open for the NBA because I got information that I would only be a third or fourth round pick in the NFL draft, regardless of what I did on the field or in any combine. And so that was something I had in the back of my mind, and I wanted to keep my options open. And then God just continued to open and close doors. I had a prayer, Lord, please open and close a door through this whole process.
That's simple.
It was that simple. And I actually went through and walked through the process of preparing for the NFL draft. And when the NFL draft came and went and my name wasn't called, that was my prayer being answered, that God closed that door.
So that's real leadership, though. It didn't distract you?
No. I mean, it didn't distract me. It actually fueled me to continue to work harder to prepare for the NBA draft. I kind of knew once I missed the NFL Combine because I had a basketball game, I knew that there was a potential of me not getting drafted, which I knew that was a possibility.
You knew that inwardly.
There was a possibility that I wouldn't get drafted in the NFL draft because I decided to play basketball anyway. That was the first step. And then when I missed the NFL Combine, because I had a basketball game, I knew there was another feather in the cap of not playing in the NFL as well. And I was okay with it.
Yeah, but I think in this is my last, because your story is one of resiliency and leadership. I really may want to even coin this segment that, because people look at all the accolades, but they don't, because I think, well, okay, this brother did not play in the NFL, but in today's NFL and in the type of quarterbacks that are structured, do you think, before I give my answer to what I believe, that you would be an NFL quarterback in the acceptance of what NFL quarterbacks are doing today?
Yes, I would have definitely had a much better chance to be a first-round pick, because I even tripled down. I told you the first two, but I tripled down and said that if I didn't get drafted in the first round of the NFL draft, that I would consider my other options. And so with that statement being said, I knew I potentially wouldn't be able to get drafted either. But in this day and age, there's a real good possibility that I would be drafted in the first round.
Okay.
And so that would have given me a little bit more hope.
So I'm thinking of that and thinking of my students and the young men that you lead on a basketball court. What would you tell them? What would you give them advice to be able to continue? Because I speak to students all the time about the keep going attitude. Mm-hmm. And you had to do that on a public stage. What advice would you give the students about that resiliency that you had developed into you from your faith and I'm sure from your family?
Well, it's really simple. Our choices have consequences. And so we have to be mindful of the choices that we make and be willing to live with those consequences. And so when I was going through that process, with the NBA, NFL. I made a choice to play basketball, and I knew that the consequence could potentially be the last time I ever stepped foot on a football field as far as playing the game. And so I had to be able to and be willing to live with that consequence. So I just think that when we start thinking about the choices that we make on a daily basis, we have to be willing to live those consequences. And whatever the consequences are, you have to make the most of them.
What's your first speech that, you just finished an incredible run, first year FAMU basketball? And I know you had time to think, meditate before that first practice. What's the first message you give to your athletes, your young men, your young leaders that we could give to students?
Well, one of the things I always talk to our guys about is when we're all together and we have come as one unit, we've all been chosen. And they chose to be here. We chose them to be here. And at the end of the day, when we've chosen to be together, we got to make it work. And so we're going to have our ups and downs, our disagreements, our agreements, and all those types of things. But at the end of the day, we have to be unified in the things that we're doing. And so we got to make it work.
Right.
Everybody got to do their part to make it work. So it's important to understand that we've all been chosen to be here. So now let's make it work.
So let me ask you this leadership question tied to that. I've been in school leadership. Jaden, my daughter, is 23, so 24 years. I've been in education going on now 31 years. Man, that's a career.
Yes.
Let me ask you this in leadership. And we'll edit if we need to edit some of it. Harder to lead these young men that you were leading or leading grown men as a point guard, right? In the NBA, in your development process. What do you find more of a challenge of leading, the youth, or you're a leader of men and you're a leader of youth? Which one is more challenging?
Well, they're both, of course, have their own challenges. And, as a player, it was more, and I lead the same way, which, of course, I don't talk a lot. But when I do speak, it's because I've seen and I've heard, and then I share.
Right.
And so my messages aren't all the time.
Right.
And it was that way when I played, and it's that way now, even though I'm the head coach and I do speak more, but it's more trying to encourage and for others to see the things that they may not see.
Right.
And as a player, you led by example. And there's no different as a coach. You're leading by example. So the things that we're working to try to help lead, when we talk about leadership, you have to be willing to do it yourself.
Right.
And so I have a acronym. We talk about PACE. PACE is one of our acronyms that the words that we use, which is preparation, accountability, commitment, and consistency. And then you have to have great effort to execute, at a high level.
Yeah.
And so those are things that we live by, because we know that our PACE wins, which wins means we is greater than me.
Right.
We have to have impact winning mindset. And then we have to have a next play mentality, which means I learn from everything that I do. And then the S stands for we got to be willing to sacrifice, for the betterment of the team.
So being a leader, a coach, how do you let your faith as a man of faith, we both been around sports, we both know, the stereotypes or whatever. So how do you allow in this, world of sports that it's supposed to be, the fast and the Furies and the women, and how do you allow your faith to lead you as a leader? And what would you say to someone else coming up through leadership about utilizing faith to help them lead?
Well, like I said, a lot of people read books. They see the cover, but they really don't understand what's on the inside until they open the book. And so it's important that what people see, they know what's inside,
right?
Because it comes out on the front of the cover. And so it's just something that I've always done. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. But I want people to understand and know who Jesus Christ is and the way he lives through me by the way I live my life.
Right.
When I'm wrong, I admit that I'm wrong,
right.
Not trying to cover it up or any of those types of things. And people are more willing to follow you and hear what you say. And also send messages to people. Now we have text. You send messages to people via text message. And the crazy part about it is, regardless of what your faith is, and people know who you serve and your faith, if they disagree with you on who you're serving, they always come to you and ask you for prayer when they need prayer.
Right.
And so that's another way to be able to, share who Jesus Christ is living through me by just being who I am. And sometimes I don't have to speak. It's just being kind to people when they may not see you need to be kind to them. So the way you live can be the biggest, example of your faith and anything else.
I always tell folks, I don't wear a big, 6x9 cross or whatever. And I always think one lesson I learned a long time ago, Heather took me, we had the privilege of going to hear the great Maya Angelou speak. And this is when we were living in Denver. And she made it so simple. She started talking and singing "This Little Light of Mine." And she was basically saying that's how simple it is. And that light is what a lot of times I find to attract people. Because they'll say, how do you do it, Soup? And people say, how do you not, scream at people and cuss at people? And I'm like, that's just not who I am. And if that's how I have to lead people, then it's the wrong group of people I'm leading.
Correct.
And so I'm sure you see that as well, but with a bigger spotlight on you. Do you see that type of leadership draws more in the secular world?
Well, that's not my issue.
We'll say that's on them.
Yeah, that's on them whether they like it or not. But you have to have standards.
Yeah.
And everyone has their own standards. And if you're the leader of the group, you have to set the standard that you want. And hope that the people that you surround yourself with have those same standards in some form. And I've learned from my dad, I learned from Coach Bowden, I learned from Coach Mark Rick, that when you set the standard, people will fall somewhat in line.
Right.
And if they're out of line, they will have a healthy respect for you because of the way you live your life.
Agreed.
And I've seen that time and time again when people say, well, excuse my language, when they're around you.
Right.
When they say that, that means they have a healthy respect for you because they know what you stand for.
Yeah, I get more. Sorry about that, Superintendent.
Yes.
I didn't mean that. So I get what you're saying.
So it's that's when you know you have a healthy respect.
You mentioned something, and then I always kind of end it. We do some, and I love it, some great word associations. It'll be cool. But you mentioned Coach Bowden. I know he had a profound effect on you. Biggest leadership lesson you learned from Coach when you were at FSU?
Well, he had a motto: faith, family, and football was like the three F's, as he called them. But the biggest thing was he lived them. Like, he gave guys opportunities, even when they didn't deserve the opportunities. He gave them opportunities to come back if they didn't do well, if they got kicked out of school or whatever the case may be. He saved their scholarships for them to come back if they wanted to come back later. And so, those are just godly principles. When you talk about loyalty, when you talk about commitment, he showed those things on a daily basis. And of course, he's not perfect, but one of the things he did show was his humility as well. And those things were very evident in the way he treated his staff. You know, he was one of the ones that I learned about the no cursing. And if coaches did curse, there was like a jar that they put in the coaches' coaches' lounge, and they had to, ante up if they did do that. To me, that's just setting a standard.
Yeah.
And when we got an opportunity to learn about that and see it on a daily basis, that's what you want. I mean, we can gravitate towards what we want, but he was one of the ones that, when I asked him about being a head coach, what are 2 things he can give me? He said, be fair and honest.
Wow.
And those are the 2 things that I've worked to try to do as a leader, as a head coach, is just be fair and honest.
Yeah. What's really interesting is an interview or something it may have been a reel I watched on Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, and he said the same thing about cursing. And so I'm just wondering, that must have had a profound effect.
And more than likely it did. More than likely.
It's really interesting.
Along with you having your own convictions, as well. So one thing I tell our coaches is, we want to make sure that the things that we say to our players, if they set them back to us, we'll be okay with.
Right.
And so if I'm cursing them out, then if they curse us out, what am I going to say?
When I first came here at DRS, and I shared all of this with Heather, she gets to hear my ups and even more the downs and the challenge. Leadership's hard. It's difficult. But I remember when I came here, and I was here maybe a month, and several people came up to me and they said to me, like, when are you going to start cussing these folks out? And I looked and said, what do you mean? And they said, that's the only way that they're going to get that you're serious and what you really mean to them. 7 years later, I still stand, and I've never cursed out one person since I've been here.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the person, because you can still get your message across. Like,
absolutely.
I get my message across to people by just raising my voice. And when that happens, they understand and know that
Wait a minute.
it's different.
Charlie, hold on. You raise your voice?
Like I said, I'm like everybody else, just different words come out. The voice, I had to do it as a quarterback as well.
Well, you're calling your cadence so that they could hear you. Charlie. I just can't see you being mad and be like, dang it, fellas. And don't and I've known you since I've been here now. I'm getting started my 8th year superintendent. I just can't, and that's a good thing. I just couldn't. It probably would scare me, and I'm much bigger than you.
I told you I was not perfect.
But I know you're not perfect, but I just can't. That's I want to see. I'm coming to hang out at basketball practice. So I want to see Charlie.
It doesn't happen often. It doesn't happen often. But when it gets to a point where they need to hear a louder voice to be heard on a specific matter, the voice inflection.
Does everything stop?
It does.
I could imagine that, because I probably be like, what's he getting ready to do now? Because I could only imagine that. Man, this has been really, really good, Coach. I always say that I just want to know a little bit more about you, and I definitely have learned a little bit more about you, and I hope our viewers, that you too have learned a little bit more about Coach Ward and what makes him tick as a man of faith. This is the fun part now we're going to do.
Okay.
It's so we get to have a little fun, and I have to think, Heather helps me come up with these questions, and the first one I saw, the 10th one, I'm going to move it to probably the second one, because I saw you and, I don't say kids' names, but you and your daughter on one of your reels. So I'm just preparing you now for that one. So I thank Heather for coming, helping me with these. But I want to ask you, it's going to be about 11 questions for you. And I'm going to start out, it's just word association. You can answer, and if you want to elaborate on it, you can. if you want. So it's for fun, just so we can know more about you. So the first one, early morning workouts or late nights at the gym. Which one?
At this point, neither, which is not the right thing. But I'm not an early morning person.
You're not?
No. But if anything, if I would do, it would be late nights.
What about
in the
two-a-days? Were you early then?
No, I'm not an early morning person.
So what happened, Charlie?
Ever.
You was a Heisman, so you was like, I'm going to walk out just a little bit later.
No, I mean, I was always on time for stuff. No, don't get me wrong for that. But if I was going, I'm a late night owl, so I stay up late. So that's the reason why I'm not an early morning person.
Yeah, I can relate to that because even last night, Heather was like, "What are you doing?" And it was probably, I don't know, 2:00 in the morning. I was like, and I really was. I was like, I'm organizing my bag because you start thinking about, I need this for the morning, and so it was about 2:30 in the morning, and I was like on the side of the bed, organizing my briefcase, and so yeah, I get that one. Second one, you have a best, and blame Heather afterward. Best dad joke. You know why we got that, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of one that I just told. I'm trying to think of one I just told.
We can come back to that. We're gonna come back to
all
it
right, because I normally have them in my phone.
Oh, okay.
So if I can grab my phone.
Yeah, we're gonna let you grab your phone.
Yeah, I grab my phone
and I'm gonna let you get your best dad joke.
I can give you some good ones.
You can give me some good ones.
Yeah.
We're gonna have about 30 questions in because we're gonna do. Because here's the problem.
What's that?
I'm probably gonna be laughing at it, and the folks on the other side of the camera gonna be looking at us like we crazy because they get on to me with my daughter being away. I even do like FaceTime bad dad jokes, and they ignore me. So you got you ready?
Here you go. Yeah.
Okay, here's go.
It's a Bible joke.
Okay.
Say, who is the smartest man in the Bible?
Smartest man in the Bible. I don't. Who would you say?
It was Abraham.
Abraham.
He knew a lot.
He knew a lot. Okay. Give me one more. Come on. Give me one more. He knew. Look, now he really loves these jokes.
Yeah.
Okay, give me a couple more. Come on, I'm gonna get with you on them.
These are some that I think
he knew a lot.
Yeah, he knew a lot.
I'm gonna use that with my daughter tonight on FaceTime, and I guarantee you, she gonna say, "Mom, so what were we saying?" That's what they do to me.
What is a New Year's resolution?
What is a New Year's resolution? Tell me, Charlie, what's a New Year's resolution?
Something that goes in one year and out the other.
Look, he's cracking up at him. You can do this all day.
Oh yeah,
all day.
I actually have in my office a calendar that has bad dad jokes in it, and then I have in our bathroom on my next to the sink. There's another calendar that has some dad jokes. So
yeah, you got to get up because a couple of years ago, for Father's Day, they gave me a book.
Oh, I got books too.
I got the books.
I got like 5 or 6 books.
Man, we need to get a book club, Bad Dad Jokes Book Club. So thank you. So we'll have Coach Ward back, and we'll just spend time me and him doing bad dad joke challenges. A couple more. Football or basketball?
Both. I'm a sports guy. So people ask me that all the time, like which sport you like. I'm a sports guy, so I'm going to say both.
Okay.
Because I'm just sports. I like sports.
I could see that because a guy who never knew I would be sitting here doing this with Charlie Ward is I appreciated watching you in both sports. I was a Laker fan in them days.
Okay.
But I've always appreciated the grit of an athlete, and you had it. You had that it on the football field, and I remember watching you. At the time, I was in Arkansas. The only time I don't like you in basketball is when you play UAPB, because that's my wife and I. That's our alma mater. But I remember watching you in those days, and we didn't have a bunch of black quarterbacks then, and I just cheered for Florida State because I was cheering for Charlie Ward, because you were representing what they said that we couldn't be. So for me, I would say Charlie Ward because of who you were and represented. So football and basketball for me, that would be toughest opponent ever.
I would say the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Really?
The championship game we won. That was one of the toughest games I've had to play, even though there were other games that we've lost and I've been a part of. But physically it was tough. Mentally it was tough because they gave us a lot of different looks. And physically they played at the whistle, after the whistle.
But they had some big dudes
and
too,
so
didn't they?
it was a very challenging game. Yeah. But I guess that's the way it's supposed to be if you're playing for a championship.
Nebraska. Wow. Yeah. Okay. We'll go with that. So for Cornhuskers, he just gave you some love. Y'all were tough. Favorite pregame meal?
I always did like the normal chicken, grilled chicken.
No Skittles like Marshall and
we when I was with in the NBA, we did have bagels. Was like we used to have them New York bagels before games.
Yes, and so those bagels. I've been like bagels?
Those were really good. The bagels were really good. You put some cream cheese on them.
Okay, we'll go with bagels for Charlie. Mike, steak, but I know you don't eat steak, so
no, not at that time. But grilled chicken and some form of either rice and a vegetable.
And you were ready to go. Best advice you've ever received?
I think the one that Coach Bowden gave me when it came down to being a head coach, which was to be fair and honest, because those are two things you would want.
Fair and honest.
And he was that to me as well.
Best underrated quality in a leader. Best underrated quality.
I think service.
I would agree.
Most times people look at the leader and don't think that they should be serving others. I got that skill, or I got that understanding from one of my mentors, Greg Glenn. He gave my first head coaching opportunity on the high school level. And when I was going to tour the school that he was the headmaster over, while we were touring, we were outside and he saw some trash on the ground and he picked it up and kept picking it up and putting it in the trash can. And that showed me that regardless if you're the headmaster, you can still pick up trash on the ground if it's not even in what you would consider your scope of work.
They'll hear vacuum cleaner running in our superintendent suite, and it's me running the vacuum cleaner because it needs to be vacuumed. Every Friday before I leave, and I'll credit this to my mother, I dust the furniture, with the pledge and all of that, because I don't have an expectation that anyone is going to do it for me, and I'm going to do it because I want it done. So that service piece is key. I agree with you. One word that defines success.
Resilience.
Resilience. I'll roll with you on that. Favorite thing about coaching?
The impact that you can make on someone's life. It can be both positive and negative. So you just have to be careful, how you go about making that impact.
Okay. And I think I know this one because I've gotten to know a little bit more about you, but legacy or championships?
Definitely legacy.
Right.
And legacy lives on through others. Championships are memories that you come back to, and you'll be known for, but the impact can be felt when you leave a legacy with people.
Well, I definitely will be the first to stand in line and say that Charlie Ward is leaving a legacy for folks. And you also are leaving a blueprint. And I thank God for what you're doing for this community, but not this community. Your touch goes much further than this community. And I remember at one of your events hearing the young man talk about the impact that you and Tanja had on him when you were a Knick, New York Knickerbocker, and it was just really touching. I got one off script: Knicks or Cavaliers?
Well, of course, yeah, I'm going for the Knicks.
Okay.
And then of course the Spurs, because that's my other team that I played for.
Man, I'm going with the Thunder. I have to go with the Thunder because my best friend, next door neighbor, well, the brothers are my best friend, Mike and James Williams, and his son is Jalen Williams.
Okay.
And so I'm pulling for the Thunder because of that relationship. But it's a good series. I knew you were going to say the Knicks. But if it's the Knicks and Thunder, then who?
I'm going for the Knicks. But if it's the Knicks and Spurs, I can't lose.
You got to pick one.
Well, I can't lose because that was.
Pick one. You play for both, right?
Yeah, I played for both, so that's why I say I can't lose.
Okay, but if it's Knicks and Thunder, can we get one game together?
Sure.
All right, we'll do one game together.
Do one game
so
together.
I want to close out. We're gonna give Coach Ward. I gotta let him close with his next best dad joke. You got one more?
You want another one?
I want one more, Charlie. Come on, one more. And then I just hope the viewers watch after he reads it how hard Charlie laughs at his dad joke. So we're going to give him one more and let him get one more good laugh on. So you got one for me?
Well, yes. This is a football dad joke.
Oh, okay. I'm going to get this before you can get a punchline.
What do you call a football team that's always late?
Football team that's always late. I give.
The Rushers.
Oh, good Lord, Charlie. You got everybody laughing on that. The Rushers. They so dad jokes that they so bad that they're funny to me. And so
well, they say they're bad, but everybody laughs.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to play this back for my family so I got some validation. Hey, this has been Leadership Matters with Superintendent Johnson, and I just wanted to know a little bit more from my friend here, Charlie Ward. I wanted you to learn a little bit more about him, and I hope you learned some of the principles that has made him successful and continue. You never hear him say that he's completed his mission or journey here in life. For my students, you too can be Superintendent Johnson. You too can be Charlie Ward. I think he gave us one word to remember, and that's resiliency. This is Superintendent Johnson, and Leadership Matters.